this thought, two wolves crossed his path, and he said, clap of thunder happened, he turned them into people. So these creatures didn't have a choice. They were the first, changed by the changer, to be people. So they had no choice. They had to be people for the balance of time. And so he instructed them to go live in La Push at Quileute land. So they were actually the first. They weren't the only, they were the first. So as time passed, before time changed, there were whales that decided to be people. There were eagles, there were beaver, there were deer, there were bear. And when they removed their clothes, removed their fur, they would go to live in Quileute land. So they were the first, and they were only one of many clans that, when time changed, so that they would remember who they came from, they assumed their previous identity as a clan, so that they would always honor that animal and remember who they came from.
My grandfather, a long time ago, told me about the importance of James Island. The river mouth where it now exists, it goes out by the James Island. The river mouth used to be up at what they call Rialto Beach, and this was kind of a little bay in here. It was blocked off. And the Quileutes lived down here below where the school is at. There was big long houses and some houses back there. And of course, the macaws were our enemies and we were their enemies. And we was always raiding each other. When they'd see the macaw canoes, the war canoes coming down, he'd come back and let the people down here know. And then we'd go up to James Island. And they had like big boulders and rocks and stuff. But there was only one way to get up there. So if the macaws try to come in, or any raiding people try to come in, that's the only way they could go. And they would push these rocks down and to keep them from getting us. And of course, when they left, and we went back to doing what they were doing back in those days. Probably preparing food and that kind of stuff. So
now, the words that I'm using are words that a male would speak to a male. Okay, although there are some words that have been continued, but they're not the complete syntax, and the structure is incorrect, but it's as close as we've got. So if I were to say to you, a greeting would be Ashla Cha. It means, how are you? I'm speaking to a male, so I say Ashla Cha. And it's not necessarily the words that a female would say to a man, but it's words that would be generally spoken to a man, Ashla Cha. And if I were speaking to a woman, I would say Ashla Chit.
You talk about a spiritual connection. We used to have excellent canoe makers, and well, he's my ex-father-in-law now, and of course he's gone. But they would, we carved canoes out of cedar, and I asked him to take me out with him because he was going to start a tree, or start a canoe. And we go out there, and we sit, and we sit, and we sit for about 3 hours. And so I sat with him. He didn't say nothing, and he says, "We're going home." And I didn't question him why or what, I jumped in the car and we came home. And so the next time we went out there, I asked him on the way out to the tree why he didn't do anything. He says, "Because I wasn't in connection with the tree. I have to be spiritually connected to that before I carve that canoe, because I want that canoe to take me safely either to the ocean or through the river and back home again." That's one of the lessons I learned as a young boy about how important the spirituality is with, not only with the people, but with the animals and with the trees and that kind of stuff. So I've been pretty lucky with dealing with some of the, the elders of our tribe, growing up and learning from them. And like I mentioned earlier, I try to pass this on to my children and my grandchildren too. So
we were all charged with the responsibility of caring for the land, of the animals, since we were all at one time creatures. Whenever people would go hunting, there was always a ceremony honoring the creature we were going to take, let's say an elk. There was always a ceremony that the person who was going to hunt, and their family as well, there was a ceremony that was done to honor this creature, because this creature was related to us more closely. We were creatures too, so we had to honor their choice to remain creatures to feed us, the people. And so we had to thank them, we had to honor them, we had to say, I'm sorry, I'm about to take your life, but thank you for being willing for the balance of time to be this creature.
Forks started out as a logging town, basically, logging and mill town. There's lots of timber around here, so that's what drew the people here.
The Forks area has been for many, many years known as the logging capital of the world.
When I was a child, my father was a logger and a farmer, and a big, huge wage for him was $20 a day. But there was a lot of money that went through this town. People worked hard.
And of course, it's just a beautiful place out here. And over the years, in the 70s and stuff, there was a big logging boom, and it drew a lot more people.
Well, my grandpa owns a timber company, actually, However Timber, and so my mom works for him, and we've grown up with that, and it's kind of gone really downhill and kind of scary, in fact. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of like the whole town, like what makes it up with logging and everything and stuff like that.
Now it's kind of slowing down quite a bit, and it's gearing more towards tourism as far as the industry now. There's still a few holdouts. We have a couple lumber mills and stuff still run out here, and there's a few loggers, but with the way the economy is now, it's kind of really slowing down.
Used to be really boisterous here. There was logging, there was the mills, then the spotted owl issue came up.
This town has a lot of pride and history behind it with our logging industry and the fishing and hunting that takes place in this beautiful country, and it's had its hard struggles over the years with spotted owl and the industry of logging having taken its ups and downs like every industry does.
And so we ended up, of course, losing a lot of major players in the logging industry. They had to do several changes, change their mills to handle smaller wood. Everything became real mechanized, so there's a lot less jobs.
We are the gateway to the Olympic National Park, which is world famous and magnificently beautiful. So we've always had tourists, nothing like this. But what I've heard over and over again is we came to Forks because of Twilight, we'll be back because of Forks. And that is music to my ears.
The Olympic National Park has been for many years a really big draw. People have come here to visit the diversity of the Olympic Peninsula and Olympic National Park, to visit the Olympic Mountains, the temperate rainforest ecosystem, the wilderness coastline, and the beaches that people can hike on. And
the reason people mainly are coming out here now is because of the Twilight thing, and of course the whole rainforest and the Olympic National Park. But for the most part, we get a big draw off the Twilight thing just in the past year or so.
During the summer, we had a lot of tourists coming already, just because it's a pretty good tourist attraction, I guess, right next to the beach. But once the books came out, I mean, we had over 1,000 people here on one day for someone's birthday or something was happening for the books.
I think it was Bella's birthday in September. We had tours at the school, and there were people backed up like all the way down the sidewalk, and like you just don't see that, and it's just, that many people coming here is crazy.
It's completely changed the town. The businesses are going great. We've got 2 or 3 new businesses